Today I will be deep diving into the 1981 attempted assassination of the President of the United States. The shooter believed that doing this would have made him closer to actress Jodie Foster. He became obsessed with her after seeing the movie Taxi Driver. This moment could have forever changed US history. So let's get started. Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. This is Crime Time with Connie and I am obviously Connie. If you are new here, hello. On Tuesdays, I sit down and I discuss a true crime case. And now on Thursdays, I will be uploading a second video where I just read spooky stories. So if you're interested, tune into those. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you want to see more of my videos. Today, I will be doing a crossover of some of my interest, true crime, pop culture, and a little sprinkle of history. So let's get started. Like I said, Jodie Foster was pursued by a stalker and obsessed fan who came up with the plan to impress her by assassinating the president at the time, Ronald Reagan. I am a massive fan of Jodie Foster. She made her acting debut in 1965 at just 3 years old. It was for a Coppertone commercial. Actually, her brother went in and the agency felt like Jodie would be better for this advertisement. Now, don't get confused with the little girl on the suntan lotion that has the dog with it. I always thought that was Jodie Foster, but it actually wasn't. She was just in the commercial. This commercial led to more opportunities for the young actress. She continued to work in advertising and in movie roles, in TV roles. Most of these roles were for Disney because she was a young actress at the time. Her future debut in a movie was actually Napoleon and Samantha in 1972. This was a Disney movie, and the plot of the movie was that her character befriended a little boy, and he had a pet lion as his, I think, best friend. During filming of this, Jodie actually got injured by a lion, and she actually has scars on her back from it. The lion put her in his mouth. Just a couple years later, in 1974, she would appear in a Martin Scorsese film called Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore. It went on to win Oscars. This wouldn't be the last time she worked with the director of that film. She would go on to be in Taxi Driver. Now, we all should know the movie Taxi Driver. It is an iconic film masterpiece. Robert De Niro stars in this film. You might be familiar with his iconic mohawk or the line, "You talking to me?" If you don't know or you've never seen Taxi Driver, I will give a rundown of the film because this is very important for what happened later on. In 1976, the psychological drama Taxi Driver made its debut. The starring actor was Robert De Niro. The director of this film was Martin Scorsese. I know I'm saying that wrong. The movie stars Robert De Niro, and his character's name is Travis Binkle. He is a disconnected veteran who obviously needs some help. He is a taxi driver, and he is disgusted with the city and its trash, quote unquote. Literal trash, because during filming, they filmed in the summer of 1975, and that's when the sanitation strike was happening, so garbage was just all down the street, and he had a disgust with pimps, prostitutes, and the crime occurring in the city. During the film, you can see Travis writing in his journal, and there is a narrative voiceover of what he is writing down, so you can kind of pick what's going on inside his brain. Travis does struggle with social interactions. He is definitely a loner. He's going through something. He attempts to romance a woman named Betsy, who's played by Sybil Shepherd. She does agree to go on a date with him, but he messes up, he fumbles, because he takes her to a adult film theater, and obviously on a first date, she was not into it, and she ends up not wanting to see Travis anymore. And this infuriates Travis. He is upset. Betsy is working for a campaign that is going on. So Travis comes up with a plan to assassinate this senator named Palantine, who is a presidential candidate. So Travis begins to work out. He is practicing with weapons. So he's doing all these things to attempt his assassination on this presidential candidate. He encounters a young prostitute who is played by Jodie Foster. Her character is very young. During filming, Jodie Foster was just 12 years old, and the character she plays is around that age, and her name is Iris. Travis is just disgusted. He really wants to help Iris get out of the situation she's in. She's living in a brothel, says she'd rather do what she's doing than go back home. Later on in the film, Travis feels like he is ready to go do what he's planning on doing. That's where the iconic Mohawk scene occurs. He goes to the rally where this presidential candidate is giving his speech, but he is seen by Secret Service. They get a feeling that he's not there for any good reason, and Travis runs off. The ending of the film, Travis wants to be a hero, and he goes to the brothel. There's a massive shootout. The ending is up for interpretation if you believe he was killed or not during the shootout. At the ending, you can see a note from Iris's parents thanking him for saving their daughter. She got out of the situation she was in, and it seems like she went back home. That's just a little rundown of the film. So Jodie Foster, she films this. She's just 13 years old, and this movie debuts in 1976. She would go on and star in other films. That same year, she starred in The Little Girl Down the Lane. That is one of my personal favorites of Jodie Foster. And the iconic Freaky Friday. Now that went on to be remade, but she starred in the original. So Jodie Foster's just going on with her normal self. She's acting. Little does she know that there is a man who saw this film and became enamored with her. She graduates from high school, and that's when she made the decision to go to Yale University. She's 18. She doesn't know how far her career in acting is going to go. So she wants to go to college, and she did. While at the university, Jodie is receiving poems, love letters, and phone calls from a man named John Jinkley Jr. There is actually a voice recording that this man took of the phone call that he had with Jodie, and Jodie, she seems calm. She's telling him that this is inappropriate, that this is dangerous, that he needs to stop calling her, and he doesn't really get the hint. So let me introduce you to John Jinkley Jr. John Jinkley Jr. was born on May 29th, 1955 to parents John Jinkley Sr. and to his mother Joanne. He was born in Oklahoma, but his family moved to Dallas, Texas, I believe for the oil company they own. And John grew up what seems to be wealthy. In high school, he played football. I don't really know about his behavior in high school, but it seemed like he had a normal upbringing. In 1973, he would graduate high school, and then he would attend Texas Tech University. During that time, his family actually moved to Colorado for their oil company that they owned. And John actually dropped out of college. I don't know for what reason, but it might be due to the fact that he would go to California in 1975 to become, in hopes of becoming an artist, a songwriter. But that didn't seem to last long, because in 1976 he would move back home to his family. And it seemed like around that time he wasn't doing well mentally. Allegedly, he was purchasing weapons and he lied about having a girlfriend. This is the same year that Taxi Driver came out. It seems like when he was trying to connect with the young actress that he was having a distorted reality of his relationship with her. Since Jodie was not going to pursue this relationship with John, he comes up with outrageous plans to get her attention. The poems aren't working, the phone calls aren't working. She rejected him. He thought maybe I should hijack a plane. Maybe I should shoot myself in front of her. Coming up with all these ideas to get her attention. And then he settles on the idea of attempting the assassination of the president, which at this time in 1980 was Jimmy Carter. This was before the election was going on. Before election, obviously, the candidates need to go on a campaign trail. So Jimmy Carter went off. He went on to multiple locations to give his addresses, make speeches about why he should be the next president of the United States. Little did he know that a man would follow him to try to plan to assassinate him. John went to one of the speeches, but he forgot his gun at the bus depot. I don't know if he left it in some kind of locker. I don't know what happened, but he didn't bring the gun. He got cold feet. And when he tried to get on a plane to go see Jodie, they find his gun and he is arrested. He's only fined $62. So penniless, after paying this fine, he has to go back home. And he does seek mental treatment, but obviously that did not work. I know early on in his life he was just prescribed antidepressants. I don't know if he was currently on them during this time, if he was keeping up with his medicines. After being arrested and going home, he goes seek mental treatment. It doesn't work for him, and he still wants to go through with his plan. Months have passed, and Ronald Reagan is elected president. That is going to be John Hinckley's new target. John Jinkley Jr. takes a bus. He travels all the way to Washington, D.C., to the Washington Hotel where Ronald Reagan is making a speech. Now, before he gets to the hotel, he actually writes Jodie one final letter. Quote, "Dear Jodie, there is definitely a possibility that I will be killed in my attempt to get Reagan. It is for this very reason that I am writing you this letter now. As you well know by now, I love you very much. Over the past 7 months, I left you dozens of poems, letters, and love messages in the faint hope that you could develop an interest in me. Although we've talked on the phone a couple of times, I never had the nerve to simply approach you or introduce myself. Besides my shyness, I honestly did not wish to bother you in my constant presence. I know that many messages left at your door and in your mailbox were a nuisance, but I felt that it was the most painless way for me to express my love for you. I am very good about the fact that you at least know my name and how I feel about you, and by hanging around your dormitory, I've come to realize that I'm the topic of more than a little conversation. However full of ridicule it may be, at least you know that I'll always love you. Jodie, I would abandon the idea of getting Reagan in a second if I could only win your heart and live out the rest of my life with you, whether it be in total obscurity or whatever. I will admit to you that the reason I'm going ahead with this attempt now is because I cannot wait any longer to impress you. I've got to do something now to make you understand in no uncertain terms that I'm doing all of this for your sake, by sacrificing my freedom and possibly my life. I hope to change your mind about me. This letter is being written only an hour before I leave for the Hilton Hotel. Jodie, I'm asking you to please look in your heart and at least give the chance. with this historical deed to gain your love and respect. I love you forever, John Jinkley. So he writes this letter to Jodie, and then he goes on to his merry way to do his plan. There is actually footage of this attempt as Reagan is trying to get into the limousine. He's waving to the crowd outside of this hotel. Shots are fired. There are a total of 6 shots taken. The first bullet hit the White House press secretary James Brady in the head. The second bullet hit District of Columbia police officer Thomas Delahanty in the back of his neck. The third bullet missed and hit the building. The fourth bullet hit Secret Service agent Timothy McCarthy in the stomach. The fifth bullet hit the bulletproof limousine window. And the sixth and final bullet ricocheted off the armor side of the limousine and hit the president in his left underarm. The president is pushed into the limousine. He does not know he has been shot. The bullet is under his arm, under his armpit. Everybody there and everybody involved are just in total shock. At first, they were going to take the president to the White House. They do have medical care there if needed, and that was going to be the plan. But then something was happening with Ronald Reagan. It seemed like something was going on. He might have been having a heart attack. They don't know. So that's when they made the decision to send Rod Hyde, which is code name for the president, to the George Washington Hospital emergency room to get him checked out. They thought maybe he broke a rib as they were pushing him into the limousine, and that punctured his lung because he began coughing up a little bit of blood. At this time, Ronald Reagan is 70 years old, and they're assessing him. They don't know he's been shot. His blood pressure is low. Eventually, I believe it went down to 0. I don't know how that's possible, but it happened. And that's when someone notices a tiny slit under his arm. And it wasn't really bleeding. That is because all the blood was internalized. The bullet, I believe it flattened down to into a dime. So when it ricocheted off the limousine, it flattened into the size of a dime and went into his body. And it was an inch away from his heart. So they had to fix him up. And they did. Ronald Reagan survives his injuries. It was said that when Nancy Reagan went to go visit her husband after he recovered from the surgery, that he told her that he forgot to duck. That is just a little quote I thought I'd like to add. Secret Service and the police officers know who tried to do this because they apprehended the man quickly. He was arrested, he was charged, and he would be brought to trial. His trial began on May 1st, 1982. He was charged with 13 offenses, and he was found not guilty. This is a very controversial trial and verdict. So Jinkley was confined at St. Elizabeth's Hospital in Washington, D.C. Like I said, nobody was killed in this attack. However, Press Secretary James Brady was left paralyzed and permanently disabled. He would sadly pass away on August 4th, 2014. The medical examiner ruled his death a homicide as a result of the gunshot wound from John Jinkley. And Jinkley actually did not face charges as a result of Brady's death because he had been found not guilty of the original crime of not guilty by reason of insanity. Jinkley would be released from St. Elizabeth's Hospital, where he was there for 3 decades, and he was released on September 10th, 2016. He was required to live full-time at his mother's home in Virginia and to work at least 3 days a week and record his browser history. And on June 15th, 2022, he was actually released of all these conditions. Apparently he's not a threat to society. His parents actually wrote a book about their son's struggle with mental illness. You can actually find John Jinkley's music on YouTube. He is on there. He went on to write music and I guess live out his dream. Ronald Reagan, the 40th president of the United States, would pass away in 2004. Jodie, of course, went on to have a massive career in film. She would win 2 Oscars for her performance in The Accused, came out in 1988, and The Silence of the Lamb, 1990. She is now nominated for her, I believe this would be her 5th Oscar nomination. So yeah, Jodie became very successful. She does not really, she's very private with her feelings about what happened. I know in one interview she was very brief. She just said that was a chapter in her life, that it was sad. I believe she really just wants to keep that private and that she's essentially moved on. Yeah, that is what happened in 1981. But this is just a little rundown of what happened. Yeah, but that is going to be it for me today. I will see you guys Thursday for some spooky stories, some scary stories. But until then, I hope you guys stay safe out there, and as always, stay golden.